Mrs. O'Neill shook her head. When I first saw her, I was struck by her resemblance to Celine. It wasn't until I bathed her that I began to think she really is Celine. Not only the same hair and the same eyes, but even the same birthmark on her shoulder. Maybe she's faking it, I suggested. Play acting, a story everybody knows. That doesn't explain the birthmark. Mrs. O'Neill paused to set out ladles for the macaroni and the baked beans. The trouble is, she went on, I can't think of any other explanation for your sister's disappearance and this child's appearance. Maybe I was as crazy as everyone else in the valley, but the more Mrs. O'Neill talked, the more I began to think the girl upstairs might actually be Celine Estes. In this valley, anything could be true. Even a conjure woman walking the hills with her pet hog and stealing a girl every 50 years. It's happened before, you know, Mrs. O'Neill said. When Celine disappeared, the search party found a little girl in the woods. Nobody knew who she was, and she couldn't tell them. What happened to her? Mrs. O'Neill sighed. They put her in an orphanage. She wouldn't eat or drink. In less than a month, she died without ever saying who she was or where she came from. But somebody remembered that a child had disappeared 50 years previously, so it seemed like the old stories were true after all. I was about to ask more questions, but the sharp sound of barking dogs scattered my thoughts. I ran to the window. The day had ended, and flashlight beams sliced the darkness, illuminating a tree here, a man there. The search party was coming back. The back door banged open, and Dad led a group of men into the kitchen, big men in work clothes, stomping their feet, red-faced from the cold, talking in low voices. "Where's your mother?" Dad asked me. Before I could answer, Mom came stumbling down the back stairs, still half asleep from the look of her. "Have you found Erica?" She gazed around the room wildly, her eyes flitting from one person to the next. "Where is she?" The searchers drew together, holding sandwiches but too polite to eat them. Dad drew Mom close. "I'm so sorry, Martha." Mom beat her fist against his chest. "You didn't look long enough. You must have missed something. She collapsed against him. He held her up, kept her from falling, stroked her hair, tried to comfort her. "Believe me, ma'am," Mrs. O'Neill told Mom. "We searched every inch of these woods. We didn't find a trace of her. Neither did the dogs." Mom turned to me. "Where's that girl you brought home? The one with Erica's doll, the one wearing her clothes. Ask her where my daughter is. Make her tell you." Everyone in the room seemed to stop breathing. No one moved. No one spoke. The only sound was the tick-tock tick of the kitchen clock and the wind rattling the window panes. "What girl?" Dad asked, looking from Mom to me. "What's she talking about, Daniel?" Before I could answer, Mrs. O'Neill said, "She's talking about Celine. Daniel found her. She's upstairs sleeping." The group of searchers huddled together, half-finished plates of food in their hands, and mumbled to one another. I heard Celine's name once or twice, but their voices dropped even lower into whispers. Men shook their heads. They looked worried, frightened even. A couple of them made excuses and left the house. I heard a car start, saw its headlights, watched its taillights as it sped away. "What's wrong?" Dad asked Mr. O'Neill. "Why are they leaving?" "It's the girl," he said slowly, as if answering the question embarrassed him. "They're saying that old auntie's got your daughter, and there's no use looking for her." While Dad stood there, flabbergasted, the last 3 men thanked us for the food and drink and edged out the back door. In the yard, engines revved, headlights lit the field, and in a couple of minutes the search party was gone. Mr. O'Neill turned to his wife. "Maybe you should get the girl, bring her down. Let Ted see for himself." Mrs. O'Neill started up the back stairs, and I followed her. Stopping at my closed door, she tapped gently. "So as not to startle her," she whispered. When no one answered, she opened the door and peeked inside. The window was wide open, and the curtains blew like streamers in the cold air. Mrs. O'Neill ran to the window and looked into the night. All that moved were the shadows of trees tossed by the wind. "She must have gone back to the cabin," I said. "Someone should go after her." Mrs. O'Neill shook her head. "There's not a man from these parts who will go near that cabin at night." "Not even the police?" "Every one of them grew up here. They've heard stories all their lives about old auntie. Most of them swear they've seen her and Bloody Bones in the woods or alongside a dark road." I watched Mrs. O'Neill hurry down the back stairs, and then I took a quick look around my room. A sweater and a pair of jeans I'd left on the chair were gone, and so were my old running shoes. I tiptoed across the hall and checked Mom's room. Little Erica was gone too. I went to the top of the back stairs and listened. Mom was crying, and Dad was calling the state troopers. "Surely they don't believe in this superstitious nonsense," I heard him say. Mr. and Mrs. O'Neill were talking in low voices. It sounded as if they were cleaning the kitchen. Taking care to make no noise, I crept down the front stairs, grabbed my parka and hat from the coat rack by the door, and slipped quietly outside. For a second, I hesitated. What if I got lost? I needed someone to come with me, but someone who knew the way. Brody had refused to go near the cabin in broad daylight, but maybe I could talk him into going in the top of the trail with me. It was a long shot, but who else could I ask?